Peace to all of the kings and queens that's out there. This is your brother, the 13th letter to the cipher, and we are back tonight once again on Wednesday, which is Woden's Day, And if you're not familiar with Woden, that is Thor's dad, Woden, okay, for Wednesday, for those of you who all didn't know. And I want to thank you all for tuning in and watching the Mo Show Chicago. We have some things to say tonight. Hopefully, it can inform some people who do not know some things. And if this is your first time watching the Mo Show, I highly encourage you to continue to watch the show for your benefit and mine. Okay. So we all get to learn something. And I want to thank all of the supporters out there, people who encourage me. You haven't seen me for a while, maybe in about a week. You haven't seen me. For those of you who trying to reach me, no phone. If I remember your number, I try to reach out to you, but I haven't had a phone for a while. I've been emailing people. But that's because I choose not to, trust me. But this evening, I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about the Illinois prison school system. I want to talk about the Chicago teacher strike. I want to talk about the Chicago legalization of mushrooms. Yes. And I also want to talk about the EMP testing date. Now, for those of you who read this title, one of my T is not working in my keyboard, so I'll go back and re-edit the title for it. It's not that I didn't know how to spell it. I just couldn't spell it. I'll go back and use another device to edit the title, to put the T in or whatever is missing, okay? But we're going to kick this off right now with the teacher strike in Chicago. It's going on a week. It's going on a week. And in fact, really, from my standpoint, it's been a week, okay? And if you are a substitute educator, if you don't have a second hustle, it's lights out for you, because teachers there's no school and you ain't getting paid. So if you got a second hustle and you're a substitute educator, but the teacher strike is something else. I don't understand. The city of Chicago is $800 million in the hole. The city of Chicago is $800 million in the hole. And according to the mayor of Chicago, Mayor Lightfoot, and those educators call her Lightfoot, say that there is no more money for the schools at all. We can find money for everything else, but we can't find money for education. Now, I'm not a big fan of public education, the public school system. I'm not. However, some of these kids do learn something. Now, granted, you all send your undisciplined child to a classroom, especially mine, and we have to deal with that. I mean, you have other people making a lot more money than teachers, and they don't do all of the work that teachers do. Not only do teachers educate, teachers babysit. Seriously, when you send your child to school, as I said in prior videos, send your child to school with some discipline, some home training. Half the day of school is spent on trying to correct your child in a verbal manner, asking him or her to keep it down, keep it quiet, stop, shut up, will get you fired. Little Timmy, shut up. Little Timmy, shut up. Next is little Timmy, shut the fuck up, okay? So, so when you send your child to school, make sure that your child is home trained. Like, your child represents you while you're in school. That's word. That's just real talk. But how are the teachers, how they don't have money for that? What are the children are supposed to do? And this is where Black people in America, in the city of Chicago, not having sense enough with all of the millions that they can have collectively to not even have some type of system of education for their own children. They have to depend on a state to provide education for children. Wow, well, go back to home educating. In fact, homeschooling is becoming huger and huger every day. A lot of parents are opting out of public school and are actually doing homeschooling for their children. And do I think that's best? I think that I won't say that, but I will tell you what is best. And it's best for the parent to educate the child. Who can best educate your child other than you? And if you cannot educate your child, you should not be a parent. If you can't do simple math computations, you should not be a parent. If you can't read, you should not be a parent. If you can't spell, you should not be a parent. I'm just saying, because what are you going to teach the child? I'm just saying, what are you going to teach the child if you have no form of education yourself? And I'm not saying that you have to have education from the state or from the city. Hell, we gave education to the world. That's all I'm saying. And then you got teachers getting fired for displaying news images in classes. You got teachers committing suicide. You got teachers who can't afford housing, who have children. Now, according to the economic statistics, child care is 20% more than the average rent. So are they telling you not to have kids? It's outrageous, you all. The math on this is bananas. It's bananas. The dumbing down of students, the closing of schools, the striking of teachers. And in Wisconsin, they don't even have a teachers union anymore. I'm just saying. And now you have all of these other business entities that's actually contracting with schools to get educators, but pay them at a cheaper price. I'm just saying, it's mad out here. And as I've stated in the prior video, how the school system is a pipeline for the prison system. It is. Now think about it. These are actual facts. 3 out of every 4 inmates in the state of Illinois is Black. 3 out of every 4 inmates in the state of Illinois prison system is Black. Now, they just did a strike in Chicago, where we at, and now you have a banning of Black education and Black empowerment and the removal of Black history books from prison libraries and educational programs. And I'm talking about one prison in particular, and that's Danville Correctional Center. So if anybody's out there who's ever been to a correctional center, been to prison in Illinois, Danville, stop doing the dumb shit. They say that they banned these books and removed 200 books. Now, according to this is from the Chicago Tribune, and according to the Chicago Tribune, they removed these 200 books and banned books from the educational system for Black empowerment and Black history due to their racial content. Wow. Did you hear me? Did you hear me? So if it's due to racial content, well, What books do they have in the library now? I'm just saying. What is the inmates reading about now if they're not reading about Black history? If they're not reading about Black history, they reading about what? I'm just saying. Danville. Danville. And to further the information on that, some of the books that were, according to the Chicago Tribune, some of the books that was removed from the library, and they named three in particular, which is The Color of Law, which is a forgotten history of how the government segregated America. Another book was An Incident in the Life of a Slave Girl. And the third book that they mentioned was Uncle Tom's Cabin, which was written by Harriet Beecher Stowe, which was a white lady. And if you haven't read that book, I highly advise you to read that book. But anyway, at one time during the release of that book, if you were found purchasing or selling that book, you would be arrested for doing that. I'm just saying. And like I said, if you haven't read it, you need to read it, because after you read the material, you will have a change of view of whom you call an Uncle Tom. Because Uncle Tom is not the sellout, it's Sambo. In fact, if it wasn't for Uncle Tom, a lot of slaves would have been lynched, beat, killed, or captured while they were escaping, if it wasn't for Uncle Tom. So, just to be straight, when you go to prison, you know that according to the 13th Amendment, you are legally a slave. And slaves don't have the right to anything. You think about that. And it's designed that way for you, but we say that we know better and don't do better. And I'm saying as a whole, collectively, not as an individual. So you remember that the next time you go out there to do some dumb shit, especially if you end up in Danville, where you think that you're going to have some type of rehabilitation, because it's not happening. And not only is this taking place in Danville, you must remember that once this starts happening, it's like a snowball effect. It's going to happen through the whole prison system. Now, what does that do for recidivism? What does that do for recidivism? It's like our young Black men have become addicted to going to prison. It's like they junkies for jail. I'm serious. It's like young Black men have become junkies for jail. Now, for all of you silly Black folks who not understanding what I'm saying, the unemployment rate, this is what I'm saying. The unemployment rate for young Black men in Chicago between the ages of 20 and 24 is 46%. Actual facts. Did you hear me? If you are a young Black man, I'm going to say what I said again. The unemployment rate of the young Black men in the city of Chicago who are between the ages of 20 and 24, their unemployment rate is 46%. So what do you think the other ones are at? If three out of every 4 inmates in the prison system of Illinois is Black. I'm just saying, you do the math. You do the math, but yet you don't want to stop the madness, stop the violence, stop the self-hate. You don't want to do that. What, you had 8 people killed last weekend and 28 fatal. It's, 28 shot, and the other 8, they got killed. And this is a continuous thing every day and every week. But it happens every day. But you have more that happens on the weekend because it's Friday and Saturday. People out work. People get paid. People get to acting stupid. People get to drinking. You know, Friday. Check out the other videos when I talked about the days of the week and what we do on those days of the week. That's in Black History. I don't know, maybe 50 something. Might be in the 30s. That was a while ago. But yeah, if the unemployment rate for young Black men in Chicago is 46%, who are the age between 20 and 24, they in the street. They're in the street or they are in prison. And I owe that to the music industry as well. That they had a lot to do with this shit that's going on with the dumbing down of young Black men. But it's affecting the whole, not only is it affecting the young Black men, it's affecting all young youths. It's affecting all of the youth. All of them crazy. Because all of them listen to the music the rap shit that record labels encourage these artists to make so that they can get paid. And your foolish self, once again, allow your children to listen to that shit. But you see nothing wrong with it. I don't understand. But in conjunction with me not understanding that and how the fucking unemployment rate is 46% for young Black men that's between the ages of 20 and 24, yet Black people can spend $40 million a year on Jordans. And that's just sneakers. What type of economic holocaust is that? On yourself. On yourself. And during all of that time when you had these young Black men in urban areas killing other young Black men for Jordan gym shoes, Jordan didn't say a word. He could have gave gym shoes away. He could have made the prices lower. I'm just saying. So, yeah, you have to start holding somebody accountable, or you have to be more responsible on how we spend our money. And we don't have anything. We spend $1 trillion a year in this economy and we don't have nothing. Nothing. We make others rich and leave nothing for ourselves, not even for the sake of our children nor our grandbabies. You have every nation of a people. They provide businesses and services for their own community and for the needs of the people in that community. And they establish businesses and realty in our communities. Why? Because we have become the #1 consumers in America and workers versus owners and future owners of anything. Remember what I told you. We own 0.5% of 1% of nothing. And by 2053, it is predicted by the white economists that we won't even have a place to stay because you won't have a job. How are you going to pay your rent? So where's that putting you? That's putting you out in the street, and that's putting you in the prison. I'm just saying, but I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. The master teachers, they didn't know what they was talking about either. But they gave us the solution for our own salvation, and we didn't listen to them. We're still not listening to them as a whole. As a whole, we're not listening to them. And in fact, if Black people will forgive Black people like they forgive white people and will trust Black people like Black people, many of our problems would be solved overnight. But we haven't figured out how to value ourselves. We haven't figured out how to self-preserve ourselves. Now, I understand that the first law of man is self-preservation, but we're not talking about an individual. We're talking about a nation of a people. We can't even have a conversation with ourselves on the train, on the bus, at the bus stop. You know, just walking down the street is so much tension in the air between Black people. Can't even talk to each other, mean mug one another, stare each other up and down, you know, for what? But yet, we see some people that don't look like us and our attitude change towards them. Self-hate. Self-hate. Destroyed for lack of knowledge. Destroyed for lack of knowledge. Not that we didn't have the knowledge, it was being out of us. So much fear was instilled in us. And the only thing that we had left was for to defend our or save our lives. Because we didn't even defend ourselves. At least our ancestors didn't when they was in slavery. And even to this day, we're not defending ourselves because they continue to kill our ass in the street legally. But you keep voting for them. But you keep voting for them. And blacks with their silly selves always talking about they want to vote Democrat. Black folks have been voting for the Democrats and they still poor. I'm not saying vote for Republicans because all of them are the same shit. Okay. Democrat, Republican, it's the same shit. They just make you think that it's fucking different. Okay. And it ain't different. Okay. I'm just saying. It's not different. If you think differently than what I'm saying, say something in the chat. But first and foremost, let me ask you a question. I want you to name 5 good things that 5 good moves or things that you've done in your life that actually help your life flourish or was an influence on a younger person which still exists today. And if you can't think of 5, try to think of 3. And if you can't think of 3, well, I think you need to do some more reinventing with oneself. Real talk. Real talk. You have to dig deep, you know, and detoxify yourself, correct your thinking, increase the value of your words, and put a focus on your visions. That's what we must do as individuals, and that's what we must do as a whole. Rise vertically versus horizontally. I guarantee you that your life will change and our life will change as a people if we decide to do that. But you know, it's like 10 midgets making a giant, you know, small steps. And that's the same thing with your mental and your spiritual footsteps of development. It's not going to come all at once. Change is not going to come all at once. Change is not going to come all at once. But if we would trust each other like we trust white folks, and if we would forgive ourselves and one another like we forgive white people, most of our problems would be solved overnight, and there would be nothing that we could not do. That's right. You like, Mo, you talking crazy. I ain't talking crazy. We had a Black Wall Street at one time down in Oklahoma, and the white man bombed that shit, burned it down, okay? So we got to make another one. Make another one, but this time be willing to die for it because they're willing to die for their businesses. They're willing to die for that. They're willing to die for their cause of their piece of the pie. Yet we're waiting on somebody to give it to us when we have all of the tools and the talent and education that we need to provide that for ourselves. I'm just saying. I wanted to mention something real quick. There has been a rumor that has been going around, if you all haven't been listening, and that's dealing with the EMP testing. And if you are not familiar with the EMP testing, that is the electromagnetic pulse testing. Okay. That means lights out, grids out. Now, you can find this information on the Department of Defense. And I went to the Department of Defense. Like, I researched this for myself, so I'm not piggybacking off nobody because I got the information from somebody else. And when that information came to me, you know me, I'm a research monkey. And I researched it because this is involving me. And these dates are November 4th through November 6th. And the Department of Defense say that they will be having an EMP testing. Okay. Now, they didn't mainstream this because people would go and panic. And I can understand that. And you might not believe me yourself right now. But you can't say that I did not tell you, even if it doesn't happen. But the DOD, the Department of Defense, says that it is going to happen. That's what the Department of Defense said, not Mo, the Department of Defense. And this is supposed to take place November 4th through November 6th. So I highly advise for you to stack up on water, stack up on canned goods. There will be no electricity when an EMP testing is involved. There is no electricity. Your car won't start. Your cable won't work. Your cell phone will not work. Your refrigerator will not work. So if you have any food that's perishable, make sure you try to eat that food up before the 4th. Now, like I said, if you don't believe me, go to the Department of Defense and type in EMP date 2019. In fact, you can just Google it and it'll come up. Okay. So that's two sources right there, the DOD, and you can just Google it yourself. I'm just saying that. And as for the young lady who said that NASA stands for deceiver in Greek, that information is wrong. NASA in Greek stands for air and water. I don't know where she got the deceiver from, but maybe she can enlighten me on something I don't know. They also said that another rumor, but what I just told you was on DOD website, and you can Google it yourself. But another rumor is going around that on November 15th through the 22nd, is going to be a week, something like that, that there will be no light. They're going to block out the sun for a whole week. These people is about to do something. My man Mark from Anaheim has been telling us this for about 2 years, and people have not been listening. And if you're not familiar with Mark from Anaheim, go to YouTube, type in Mark in Anaheim. Wow. And there it is, Mark in Anaheim. Okay. It's a lot of things that's going on. There's a lot of people that know what's going on, but a lot of people don't believe because they too caught up. They're too caught up in the European fashion. They're too caught up in the European educational system. And you know, according to some, part of the destruction of Black men in America is religion, European education, man-made food, man-made medicine. I'm just saying. And I would have to agree with that. Those are just some of the factors, okay? But they are some of the main ones, but they did not include the economic destruction. That was a key one too. But that one wasn't written, but some people view that. And I highly agree. I highly agree. And speaking of schools that I spoke about earlier, it's very important that young Black men and young Black women open up businesses for themselves. You know, if you can, learn about stocks and bonds, learn how to read the NASDAQ. How many of you young Black men or Black women, whatever your age is, how many of you all know how to read the NASDAQ? How many of you all study stocks and bonds? How many of you all in the city of Chicago have actually research weed investments. Since it's going to be legal in a couple of months in Chicago, how many of you all thought about a real investment and have researched investment in marijuana in the city of Chicago? I'm going to lay a killer on you, speaking of weed, or I'm going to lay something on you. If you didn't know, the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, is considering to legalize mushrooms. That's right. The legalization of mushrooms in the state of Illinois, in the city of Chicago, on top of the legalization of marijuana. And if you haven't been keeping close watch, this is the third city and state that would have actually legalized both. The first one was Denver, Colorado. The second one, Oakland, California. Legalization of psychedelic mushrooms. And Chicago, psychedelic mushrooms legalization on top of the marijuana. Look out. Look out. So if you're not ready, you need to get ready. If you don't have your shit right with family members, get your shit right with family members, make amends, forgive each other, get somewhere where you're going to have to live with a number of people for a time or two. You cannot say you were not warned. I'm just saying. And with that, you all, I myself got some more reading to do. Lots of reading to do. And I need to get some sleep as well. But I think I'll stay up and read for a minute. However, I'll put that in another video. But the next video will be out in a couple of days. So I hope you all got some information out of that. I hope that I was able to give you some information that you can use, converse with people, research the material for yourself. Don't believe nothing I say. Go research it yourself. Research it yourself. Any and everything that I tell you, especially when it's dealing with numbers and statistics, especially the unemployment rate for the young Black men between the ages of 20 and 24 in the city of Chicago, 46% unemployed. Check out that EMP on the DOD website. You can Google it yourself, however you want to research it, but you make sure you research that and be prepared for that. That's what the DOD say. Maybe running a scare. I don't know, but I ain't taking no fucking chances, okay? So get you some water that's going to last you for 3 days, because there's no water. The pumps are not working, okay? Ain't nothing moving to clean the water. You're going to need water more so than food. So you might want to make a fast out of it, okay? I'm just saying, if you don't know how to make fire, I'm sorry. I guess, you know, a lot of people be grilling out, okay, in November. I'm just saying. Because anything left in your refrigerator, it's going to spoil. So you all think about that. And as always, remember to stay away from the popo. Don't drink and drive. Don't smoke weed in your car while you're driving, and have some peace among yourselves. Have some respect for yourselves and love yourself, and stop hating one another. It's your brother, the 13th letter to the cipher, you all. Thanks for watching, you all. See you in a couple of days.